The SNF Spotlight is proudly sponsored by Renewal Rehab, which is coming up on their 10-year anniversary. We are honored to have with us the CEO and founder, Eli Meystel. So Eli, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. You're always invited. So you're coming up on your 10-year anniversary. Do you still remember year one?
I do. A long time ago. Hard to forget. We didn't know what we were getting into. And that we made it 10 years is a nice milestone. It means we've come a long way. Excited to be going strong.
So what made you open Renewal Rehab?
So we really got started working with a bunch of SNF operators, and they were looking to take control of the therapy product in their facilities for their patients. And they reached out looking to create a new company that would do essentially just that. That's how we got started, with 4 sites back in 2011. And today we service upwards of 140 sites in 8 states.
So what was it like starting Renewal Rehab?
Well, it was very exciting getting started. There was certainly a lot of unknowns. We didn't know exactly what we're getting into. Had to learn the regulatory, the compliance, the clinical. There was a lot of pieces to pull together. And that's really why we started small. We started slow to figure out, number one, how do we deliver on our mission? Our mission, as mentioned, was to bring a better rehab product to the SNFs we're working with, 1. And 2, how to create something new that would not just deliver that product, but do it in a way that would then be sustainable and allow us to hopefully scale and grow. So we learned a lot. We often used the excuse that we were still figuring things out, and we were okay with acknowledging that. And as we've grown, we hired good people. We built the model. We found our niche. We found what sets us apart. We found what keeps our customers happy and what helps our patients continue to get better.
So what were some of the growing pains that you've experienced over the past 10 years?
When you start as a small company, first and foremost, you don't have market recognition. You're competing in a labor pool. Chicago is where we started. It's a difficult labor market for therapists. They need to know who we are to trust us. You need to build trust not just with your patients and your customers, but with your employees. To build a brand that employees will be comfortable working for was a challenge. As you build up market share, or when you're new into a market, it's hard to have enough labor to go around to meet your needs. So there were challenges. Each time we branched when we were small and we didn't have the same resources to really branch out, support new growth. There were certainly challenges. There were moments where people were driving. We were paying people to fly across the country to cover certain labor and certain services. And as we've grown, we've really been able to build the resources and support to allow us to continue to grow in a much more sustainable way.
So now that it's grown over the past 10 years, what would you say some of the biggest milestones that you've hit in the business side? The
most significant milestone was branching each time we entered into a new state. When we crossed into 1,000 employees, I remember when the first time our payroll hit $100,000 was like a big deal. When our payroll hit $1 million was even a bigger deal. And then to have a payroll upwards of $50 million a year and more those are crazy things that we would never have dreamed would have been possible. But much more importantly is to get our customers to continue to refer us to other customers. A satisfied customer, working with groups already multiple times. We have customers that we've working with now on their 3rd group. They've brought us in 3 different times. So a repeat customer, that tells us that we know that we're doing something right. And that's very rewarding. Certainly on a daily basis we see our patients get better, but as far as business growth, to be able to support a corporate team that could thereby support all of our field staff and our continued growth is a tremendous milestone.
So what do you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started?
You're never going to fix everything. You really never. There's a lot of technical knowledge certainly that I wish I knew, but we knew that was going to come. I think the biggest learning piece for me is today's fire is not urgent tomorrow, and sometimes tomorrow is okay also. We certainly pride ourselves on being very responsive to our customer needs, to our employee needs, to our patient needs, but understanding really what is a crisis and what isn't. And balancing that has been a huge learning experience.
So what is some of the biggest changes in the industry over the past 10 years? I mean, we obviously have COVID, rugs from PDPM.
The biggest changes, of course, like you mentioned, the reimbursement changes from rugs into PDPM is a big change. There's regulatory changes, a lot of nitty-gritty we don't need to get into on how the evolution of rules. But really, I think the biggest changes, there's 2 major changes which kind of transcend all of that. And they go a little bit hand in hand. Number one is growth of managed care and the managed care's role within healthcare in general and specifically in long-term care. Managed care has managed to layer themselves on top of all the payer sources and working with those managed care organizations to help them understand what you're doing and how you're bringing value to their organizations and to the providers. It's number one, it's a huge challenge in making sure everyone's speaking the same language and having the same goals in mind. And so that's one huge change. And the other significant change is the evolution of the population in the long-term care setting. The patients today are significantly more acute than they were 10 years ago when we started. When we first were getting started, I remember talking with an executive in long-term care at the time who said the patients today, this was 10 years ago, that are in long-term care would have been in a hospital 10 years ago, and now it's evolved that much further. And nursing homes, since skilled nursing facilities have really evolved where they're treating a far more complex patient than they were 10 years ago. And therefore the care has evolved with that. And each care setting follows along. And assisted living sites, the population is more acute as well. But allowing our population to age in place is a big deal. Allowing people to stay in their living setting is really a main piece. And therefore managing the change in acuity of patient level to allow them there has been a significant change.
So you're saying that there's been a significant change in going from regular standard skilled nursing facility to CCRC, where they go from level to level?
Oh, not even CCRC. The CCRC model certainly has been very popular, where that allows a patient to move into a community and move from IL to AL to SNF. But even beyond that, just to be able to bring services, number one, let's say in the skilled nursing model, you have someone who's a long-term resident, allow them to stay in the skilled nursing facility and avoid a hospitalization. The more medically complex services available on site, as we know that each time a resident has to go off-site for a procedure, there's so many variables that could come in the way, can be a barrier, whether it's transportation, potential hospital admission. All those factors then are a potential opportunity for a bump in the road of their care. And so if you could treat them as they are in their current setting without the need for them to go somewhere else, essentially almost a concierge model, bringing the services to them. And that allows for a much more stable care environment and allows the care staff at the facility to ensure the patients get the services that they need. And what we find is that many of the patients now, they're much more acute. They're much sicker patients currently living in nursing homes today than used to over the past, as hospitals look to keep patients essentially out of the hospitals is a big goal in healthcare today.
What would you say makes Renewal Rehab different from all the other contract therapy companies?
It's a great question. And I say this all the time. I talk to providers in skilled nursing facilities. We're all hiring the same staff. It's the same clinicians out there. So how do we make our difference? And really the main piece comes down to what kind of support and resources do you have for your staff out there? What kind of relationship do you have for your staff out there? What kind of tools do you have to achieve the best possible clinical results? So specifically to Renewal, early on we found our niche is in relationships. We give the same speech all the time. There's 3 critical relationships in our orbit. There's a relationship with our customers, a relationship with our patients, and a relationship with our staff. If we take care of those relationships in the short and long run, then everything else will fall into place. We made that decision way back that this is the most important thing, is relationships. To build a long-term relationship with an employee as they go through the life cycle, their professional life cycle, from a new grad into a seasoned professional. We've had many they started as almost young 20s and then later on they get married, they have a family. To be part of that, to understand that everyone has individual needs. So of course there's corporate policies, but when the primary corporate policy is understanding the individuality and meeting the personal and professional goals of each employee, that allows us to then build a relationship where they know we're not just a job. Of course, we tell them all, we want them to work to live and not live to work. We're here, we're just a job. We want to be more than that, but we understand you have a life and it's our job to support your life. And then what happens is, then they're available when we need them as well. Now when you have continuity, when you have well above industry standard employee retention rates, now you can build on that. Each time you onboard a new employee, there's a whole process to get them up to speed with what you're doing. When they're established, now you can build clinical programming, you can build professional development, and that translates into resources on the ground. I can't tell you how many buildings that we're in where the therapy director is the longest tenured department head of the facility. It's not uncommon in the industry-wide in therapy, there's less turnover, but we have a significant number. What I always tell our employees, we're not perfect, but our pledge is we're responsive. They all have access to multiple touch points in upper management, and we want to hear from them. We want to have dialogue. Doesn't mean we'll always agree, but the fact that there's dialogue and that's our commitment, that's what we feel has allowed us to make a tremendous difference. And that's on the employee side, and the same is true on the customer side. The challenge we hear from many of our customers, they're often very happy with the line staff at their site. They feel the fact that they can reach out directly to a senior VP and have a decision, have action on what they need. It's their issue today. It's urgent to them today. That goes a long, long way.
So what services does Renewal Rehab offer, and how has that evolved over the past 10 years?
There's definitely been an evolution. 10 years ago, it was get in there, basically just provide therapy. especially in the Ruggs days, it was about managing the care in a way that made sense, but also maximize the facility reimbursement in an efficient manner. Now in the PDPM world, which has been a great change, it's about added value as well. What can you bring as well? What can you bring as far as additional resources and other value-added services? So whether it's bringing clinical reimbursement support to customers or clinical programming, outcome tracking, and marketing support based on referral source specific resources. So they have a hospital that's focusing on a specific program. They want clinical results directly for the specific program that the hospital is targeting. Marketing support, being able to customize reporting specific to what the referral sources are looking for. Every facility, every nursing home is struggling with census, and that comes down to relationships with their referral sources, their hospitals. What are their hospitals looking for? What are their doctors looking for? And oftentimes rehab plays a significant role in that conversation by being able to build relationships not just with the providers, but with the referral sources, with the hospitals, the doctors, and the social workers. That allows then our customers to benefit from an improved relationship and thereby increase their referrals as well.
So you're saying Renewal Rehab has a marketing program that they're not just running the therapy program, but they're also helping them with their marketing materials for the hospitals and helping them attract new clients and help with census.
Anyone can make flashy brochures. We do that too, and that's nice. But we find what's more impactful is when a patient discharges home, they send them home, or they're going to their physician for a follow-up, they go with a report card with the doctor to see specific information. Mr. Jones was able to walk this far, this many steps upon admission, and now 14 days later, here's where he's at. So it's giving them specific case studies on a patient-by-patient level, as well as then we actually create metrics globally for a specific referral source for this hospital, this doctor. Here's their patients, here's their progress. So it's not just about giving them marketing materials, but more so giving them feedback and letting them see results and how their patients have done, and even by diagnosis code and a lot of other ways, so they can understand how their patients have done and actual results or what you could do for their patients.
So why is collaboration so important to you?
Our goal, as we mentioned all along, is the best possible results for our patients. That's number one, the driving factor. Everything we do is the best possible results for our patients. How do you get those best possible results? Everything else that we're talking about, relationships with our customers, relationships with our patients, relationships with our staff, those are all ways to get to our end result of the best possible clinical result. We tell people all the time, we work with our customers, it's what does the patient need today? We'll have situations where we need to bring in a clinician with a specialized certification that will be very expensive, there'll be other factors, and they've asked, and we've received the question in the past that, well, why do you want to do this? You're not going to make money, or questions regarding the finances, and we tell all the time, we're not here for this for one day or for 1 month or for one customer. We're here for our patients, and we know that if we continue to deliver those results, everything else will fall into play. Over enough time, we're able to increase efficiencies that allow us to be profitable. It starts with patient results. So if we can get the best possible patient results at the best possible cost, the most efficient manner for our customers, then everybody wins. But it's patient results first.
So what drives you?
So there's really a heavy responsibility. Thinking about how many employees are counting on you and how many patients are counting on you. And knowing that every day brings new challenges, what we're looking for, what the new day will bring, new customers will come on, and oftentimes we'll find we can help. We can make someone's life better. We can make a patient's life better, and we do every day. We can make an employee's life better. We can make a customer's life better. The Medicare regulations always keep us going as well, making sure we understand how to do the best we can in the best possible way. But really that responsibility of knowing that there's so many people that are dependent on you for their livelihood and for their well-being, it's a major driving force.
So how do you support your line staff?
So the real key to supporting a line staff, we found, is making sure that they have multiple points of contact. In the natural hierarchy, in the way our departments run, every staff employee has a director that they report to, and the director reports to the regional director. But we found it critical that our regional directors also have a personal relationship with the line staff. So this way, there's always multiple points of contact. If they have an issue with their director, they could talk to the regional director. If they have an issue with the regional director, they could talk to the director, as well as other corporate points of contact. So that's a way of providing direct support. We have our compliance and education team that's available as a resource for all of our staff. Many staff, it's been a while since they've been in school. They're all looking to improve. They're all clinicians at heart. They all want the best for their patients. But a huge part of the job is documentation, as an example. If you don't document it the way Medicare or the insurance wants to see it, they don't care how great of a job you actually did. And providing resources, tutorials, one-on-one training, a whole variety of support and resources for the growth, the professional growth of our staff is one huge piece. But there's little pieces also. Every employee gets a gift on their birthday, on their anniversary. It's about making things fun, keeping things light, having lunches for each team, finding every little way you can to recognize people. And even then, we always want to do more. We're always working on new initiatives. We know that's the most important piece is recognizing employees, keeping them fresh, keeping them attached. And we think they recognize that as well. We do a very popular March Madness contest. We did a vaccine contests. The more contests, the more enthusiasm we can bring from the corporate level down allows them to bring enthusiasm, which translates again back out into the beginning of the patient results.
I'm waiting for that contest that like you could win a Tesla or something. When is that coming out?
One day.
One day?
One day. Not yet.
How many employees do you currently have in your business?
Renewal currently has about 600 full-time employees and an additional 1,000 active PRN employees. So on every given pay period, about 1,000 employees are working.
How did you learn the rehab lingo initially?
It's really not my job. We have qualified clinicians who it's their job to oversee all the clinical services we provide. Being in it and wanting to understand what our staff are going through, how can we properly relate to them? How can I relate to our line therapists if I don't really understand what they're doing? So needing to understand not just the technical pieces of billing and units, but understand really the clinical part of what are we providing? How do we determine the need? What are the intensity levels? What are the patient outcomes and their private level of functions? It really comes from a need to understand what our staff are doing. To be able to support our staff properly, we need to understand what they're doing. And that was really the main driver for me to understand. I'm still not a clinician, but to understand enough that I can appreciate what they're doing and the work they're putting into it. It's the least I could do is to understand the job that they're doing.
What would you say the future holds? You're now in 130, 150 facilities in 8 states. Where do you see Renewal in 2 years, let's say 5 years, 10 years down the line?
It's an interesting question because we've never set goals of where we want to be as far as revenue or homes or sites or customers. We've always just kept evolving, understanding that we need to be able to meet the needs of our customers, meet the needs of that's current customers and new customers. We're fortunate to find the demand for our services. Customers are coming to us, and the customers that come to us then continue to grow as well. At a minimum, we need to support our customers' growth, and we want to continue to grow. We believe that we're not growing just for the sake of making more money and increasing our revenue. We believe that we're bringing a product to our customers and to our patients that they'll truly benefit from. So we don't have a specific target. We believe that what we have to offer is of value to them, and if we don't grow, then we don't grow. What we've learned, the main thing is to be adaptable and quickly evolve, and we've kept a structure that allows us to be fluid and manage those the resources and the structure to adapt to whatever the circumstances may be.
So why should a management company, go to a contract therapy provider as opposed to doing it in-house?
There's no one size fits all. There's no one answer, there's no one best solution. Certainly many facilities, could be as many as 50% of the facilities in the country do the rehab services in-house. The one advice I give to all the people who ask me is make sure they're aware of what they're getting themselves into. Understand all the nuance, the same way they would want to understand all the nuance that goes into any other department, such as nursing or dietary or housekeeping. And if they understand that and they're aware, then they'll be okay. Or they'll realize that it's not for them. And what I mean is, it's not just hiring therapists and providing services. There's a lot more understanding the additional burdens that will be on the HR side. What does your compliance look like for specific to therapy? What do your clinical programs look like? When your referral sources are asking you for outcomes, do you have the structure to measure those, capture them, and report on them? As far as clinical programming, do you have the clinical resources? So it's meaning what I'm trying to say is it's not just about the team on the ground. It's also about what kind of support and resources do you have behind that. What kind of resources do you have behind them? Do you have the recruitment team and the HR team specific to therapy? Because it's a different world. And more importantly, in addition to all the resources and support, there's also the question that many therapy departments can't just support a flat number of staff. Are you going to have enough staff support the ups and downs of the volatility of your census? Census goes up and down. Are you going to staff it for a high census or for a low census? Or what do you do when it fluctuates? Those are all challenges that can be successfully managed when you're in-house, but they're challenges to be aware of. And the most important piece I always ask anyone who asks about going in-house is, what are you looking to accomplish? Make sure you understand what you're trying to accomplish, and then if you have a goal, then you'll be able to achieve it. If you're looking to save money, which you may be able to do, understand all the hidden costs that go into it. If you're looking to create a better environment with your therapy team, which may be a goal, understand that as well. There's no one size fits all. The most important piece that I've always felt that's resonated with nursing home operators is Going in-house can be a great solution, but make sure you have the rest of your house in order first. If you're taking on a new facility and nursing is a mess, or the staffing or the census, managing therapy is an additional headache you may not need now. The option to go in-house will always be there later. Take one less thing off your plate now to allow you to achieve the bigger success, and then go in-house later if that's what you want to do.
So the transfer from rugs to PDPM, changed therapy, maybe forever. How did Renewal Rehab go through this and pivot during this time?
So there really wasn't a major pivot. The goal stayed the same. It's the best outcomes for our patients. We fully embraced PDPM. It was a very welcome change. The shift from volume to patient-specific demographics is very welcome in our world. It allows us to focus on what does the patient need most. In rugs, obviously, we did that as well, but there was the added burden of balancing it with directly impacting reimbursement. So it really flows through. And now in the PDPM is our time to shine. Get the best possible results at the lowest possible cost. We're almost 2 years into PDPM, and there's still an outsized focus on volume. Insurers are talking about volume and specific numbers of minutes, which doesn't make sense. This is an outcomes-focused conversation. Are our patients getting better or are they not getting better? Here's our outcomes. The way you get there, if you can continue to get there with low outcomes, then that means we're putting a less of a burden on the system. And ultimately, the patients will benefit because there'll be more resources for them. If you don't have the outcomes, then nothing to talk about. If you have the volume, then it doesn't get you anywhere. So adapting, certainly working with our customers to make sure they understand the change in focus, how rehab's focus may change under PDPM, essentially just focusing on the patient now, which has been great. COVID was a challenge in its own right. Every state with different laws, counties with different laws, customers with different rules. We actually found a very significant hidden benefit with COVID. We were communicating with our customers much more frequently than we usually do as we're collaborating and communicating multiple times a day on what's going on in each site and how to navigate that. It allowed us to really firm up our relationship with them and be a resource. One thing I tell people all the time, going back to your question about being in-house, how would they have handled that if they were in COVID? They would have had staff without work, or they would have work without staff, one way or the other. And having the additional resources, that was a time when we were able to shine. We didn't miss a beat because of COVID. There was a lot of challenges. There was a lot of hazard pay, shift differentials, again, working with all these other parts. And unfortunately, a lot of staff with COVID, all of it. But that was a time where being a contract rate provider really showed its weight in gold for our customers.
How did you become a resource during that time?
We had staff. We had dedicated staff for our sites. We gave up our staff. Our staff were functioning as CNAs in some sites. They were passing meal trays. They were doing whatever was needed for our patients. It was the same idea as all along. We're here for our customers in this case. Here's what they need from us. They had buildings that were maybe under a lockdown, or they couldn't get staff in. They're turning to us, can we help out? And we were reaching out to them proactively. Here's what we can do. We're here. We have staff available. Let us know how we can help, how we can bring additional support to your teams, to your units. And our staff came through like with flying colors. The commitment that they put in to seeing them through to working in very tough circumstances was unbelievable.
Right, especially your director of business development.
Especially.
He just shined. How does the compliance process work specifically, and what would you say is the difference between the compliance process that Renewal Rehab or a contract therapy provider would have over an in-house company?
This is a great point. At Renewal, we've evolved in a way that our compliance department, quality assurance team, functions completely independently from our operations. We give them full autonomy to go ahead and do what they need to do, make their recommendations, proactively review all the pieces they do separate without worrying about an operational burden. And this ensures better results. In an in-house program, most of them don't have a compliance program whatsoever beyond the typical SNF program. Most in-house programs don't have a process for proactive claims review or documentation review for medical necessity. Or if they do, it's someone's job that they already have other jobs, and it's an additional task. We find that by having specialized staff just to focus on these critical items puts our claims and our customers in a position to not have to worry about the financial component of a take back or a denial.
Yeah, that's like another layer of protection.
I think in a previous SNF Spotlight, Mark Zimmer was talking about indemnification. Indemnification is a huge component for SNFs. When your contract therapy provider is indemnifying you from denials, what kind of indemnification do you have when you're in-house? It's another thing to be aware of. And obviously, if there's indemnification, that means there's a process that they're standing behind, that they're willing to indemnify for claims. And certainly a robust compliance and education program is a critical component of any rehab operation.
What do you attribute your success to?
Anything we've accomplished is because we have great people. We're just people that sit in the office. I just sit in the office all day. I used to be in the field. I used to be in facilities all the time. I know all of our staff. But it comes down to staff. It comes down to our people. They're the ones who are out there delivering the services. They're bringing it all every day. We're fortunate over the time, already it's been several years, our core corporate team has been together for years. It's all about people. Without the people on the ground, we would be nowhere. So we have clinicians giving of themselves all day, every day to get the best results for our patients. And then we said time and again, the best results for our patients is what we're looking for. They're caregivers. They want to see their patients get better every single day. And without them, we're nowhere. So any success we've had is only because of our staff.
What's the future hold for Renewal Rehab? Is that a secret or?
It's a secret to me. We know that we can be a resource to many other SNFs out there. We know that we're only in 8 states right now. That means there's 42 more, and a lot more countries too. So we don't have specific number targets, but we know that we can bring something of value to our customers. If we're not bringing value, then we don't want the business. But we know we can bring value to our patients and customers and continue doing so. So as long as we're doing that and we're growing, we're on the right track.
So Eli Meystel, thank you so much for sharing with us on the SNF Spotlight Series and coming on. I really appreciate it.
It's an honor. I hope I can come back.
Anytime.